don't know if I really knew who I was. I let someone else's perception become my reality. So the first thing I would do for anyone out there is to say, you need to break it down to understanding if this is reality or your perception of reality. Is this real or is this a story you're telling yourself? That one sentence, is this a story I'm telling myself, has saved me so much heartache.
Hey friends, Eric Brooker here, and you're listening to the Counsel Culture podcast, the show where leadership and culture collide in powerful and thought-provoking conversations. If this is your first time here, welcome. It is great to have you. You'll find stories that inspire, challenge, and equip you to lead with heart. And if you've been with us before, thank you. It is always good to have you back. Speaking of back, we are back with another incredible episode, always recording here in Studio 9 in Minneapolis. Before we dive in, a quick ask: subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a written review. In fact, go one step further today if you would. Share this episode, this conversation with a friend. It truly does help Counsel Culture reach more people. I'm so excited about this episode. Today, we have with us Dr. Beth Kaplan, a researcher, storyteller, and leadership innovator whose work centers around one of the most urgent questions in organizations. How do we create real belonging? Based on her years of research and frontline experience, Beth is helping leaders rewrite culture, reduce turnover, and build workplaces where people feel seen, safe, and supported. Her book, Braving the Workplace, has earned glowing praise. In the words of Mel Robbins, stop trying to fit in. You don't have to mold yourself into something you're not so that other people will like you. Let this book be your guide to get you there. Beth holds advanced degrees from the University of Pennsylvania, has led leadership development at top firms, and has been named by the University of Pennsylvania as a global expert in belonging. I can't wait to dive into this episode with you and talk about building cultures that last. This episode is dedicated to Beth's journey. This conversation is what we make it. This is Counsel Culture. Dr. Beth Kaplan, welcome to the
Hi.
show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
So we met briefly at the Purpose Summit a few months
Yes.
ago. I spent far too long before I reached out and asked you to come on the podcast, but it's great to see you again. We start the show the same way every week. What are you most grateful for today?
Good one. I am most grateful for being able to love and be loved.
Ooh, I
Mm,
love that.
yeah.
I love that. All right. The book is Braving the Workplace,
Yes.
uh, Belonging at the Breaking Point. We just talked about this a little
Yes.
bit. I wrote my book more for myself, apparently, than anybody else. I imagine some of that is behind your book. Tell me about Braving the Workplace, what it's about, and who is it for?
Braving the workplace is for anyone that struggles to understand where they're at right now in the workplace. So to me, when I think of what it means to brave the workplace, it's being yourself every day in a world that tells you to be something different. That's it. And yes, I completely agree with you. Most researchers like me, we study our own trauma. So I set out to really understand why so many people, myself included, felt like they were in spaces they didn't belong. It bothered me. And I went to grad school and I felt like we were in advanced common sense conversations where I had a varying opinion that was so drastically different than other people's. I would say things they would say, oh, it's titles, it's this or that. And I would say, no, it's care, or it's the manager, or it's this or that. And it just, the more and more I looked at why I felt alone in my theories and my conversations, the more obvious it became that belonging is really complex. Everyone has their own definition, and it makes us feel all a little lonely. We all feel like we're so different and separate. So I wanted to value individuality and place a light on what it really means to belong, to bring people together so people didn't feel so alone themselves.
So I'm intrigued by that idea of authentically being you at all times in the
Yes.
workplace. I will tell you, you don't know this is coming, but I will tell you that the last two corporate stints that I had before I went out on my own and started speaking in the podcast and all that, the the founders in both cases were in huge favor of the brand that I had created, the persona and all of that, me sort of being me on social media. And then all of a sudden I went to work there and they were like, hold on, can you talk about us a little bit more? And for
Yeah.
me, and I'll vent a little bit, but it's because I genuinely want your feedback here. I was uniquely being myself. I talk about things that others don't talk about on social. I talk about things that others don't talk about in keynotes, but it was me being the authentic version of myself. And it generated a lot of buzz. It generated a lot of conversation. And as a leader in both businesses, I was intrigued as someone that has conversations with people like you, like Marshall Goldsmith, like Chester Elton, like the CEO at Anytime Fitness. What a great opportunity to learn and grow. But those people were bothered by that version of me sort of just being me, to the point where I eventually thought the only way I can be me is on my own. Maybe walk me through some of your thoughts around that.
Oh my goodness, all the things come to mind when you say things like that. It's this it's the first thing I would say is good for you. I'd be very proud of you. I feel proud of you because a lot of people wait and they fester and they really get caught in this distortion loop, right? Oh my goodness, they love me. They love me for me, but they're not giving me what I need to succeed. They love me in
Yeah.
pictures. They love me in panels. But the authenticity and what makes me true to myself is not what they love. And what do I do about it? And there's lots of different things you can do about it. But what I think you should know is you're not alone. A lot of people absolutely experience this distortion and they stay in it. Why? For so many reasons. First of all, it would be lovely for me to say everyone should just quit when they have those experiences, but that's not necessarily possible. And we depend on work for our livelihoods.
Yeah.
Really hard to get out of a situation. And here's the other thing: if you were to leave and not deal with it, and I'm pretty sure you deal with it daily, especially with the guests you have, the work you write, it's going to follow you. It's not going to end until you deal with it. I wrote a lot about this in the book. And for me, I was in a similar situation, but I was also suicidal. That's the truth. And it was during a time where we weren't sharing these things out loud. And I felt very ashamed. I very much thought, this is my problem and it's because I'm not dealing with it well. And it's not necessarily the truth. You weren't broken, Eric. I wasn't broken. The system was broken. And we're human. So thriving in that situation was not possible for either of us. So it took me to truthfully tell you, I went to my boss at the time and I told him I was broken. I told him I didn't want to live anymore. And he said to me, so sorry, I've got another call I got to get to.
Yeah.
And that was my point. That's my turning point. So for you, I would say you're not alone. I'm sure many of your listeners tune in because they've experienced this as well.
You shared that story very vulnerably on stage at the Purpose Summit. And I imagine you've done that many times before. I know after a lot of my keynote speeches, I get a lot of people via LinkedIn, via text, via email, share their version or just walk up to me after. You must endure a lot of that as well. Similar, practically speaking, what can the average listener do where they don't feel like they can be their authentic self in the workplace? What can they do? Because I think many of them candidly fear that leader that says, "Hey, I've got this other call, or can we talk about it in a minute, or call me
Sure.
next week, or let's address it on our one-on-one." What can the average person do to feel more themselves in the workplace?
A few things. I will tell you for me, I'm going to be honest, I don't know if I really knew who I was. I let someone else's perception become my reality. So the first thing I would do for anyone out there is to say, you need to break it down to understanding if this is reality or your perception of reality. Is this real or is this a story you're telling yourself? That one sentence, is this a story I'm telling myself, has saved me so much heartache. I actually use that with my kids all the time. You know, the age old, she's talking about me, or he said something about me. And I would say, were you there? Or is this a story you're telling yourself? Because what happened to me is I was building things up and I was very much avoiding. I have this avoidance disorder. I write about it in the book as well, where I love to make the people around me happy. I'm a recovering people pleaser. And I love to make them happy by giving them time back, by being the model employee, by not expressing anger, and all the things. So I'd say to people, what do you value? And what are you doing? And compare those two things. For me, I went to a therapist. It helped me dramatically, truly. Now, I went to the therapist, I will tell you honestly, after I told him I was suicidal. So it wasn't like I was getting the help I needed. I really thought him hearing that was going to change the course of our relationship. I thought, oh my goodness, I'm being the most honest I can. And by the way, I told him before I told any of my doctors, my husband, or any of the people important to me. Am I alone? No. Here's the thing, Eric. People don't know that their managers and their leaders have a bigger impact on their sense of belonging than our therapists, than our romantic partners. So it's not shocking that I went to him. What upset me is me expecting him to have a different response than he's had to any other conversation we did. So it was a bit of a wake up call for me.
I spoke to somebody yesterday, and maybe as I was preparing for this conversation, going through your book and having this conversation sort of all at once, he said to me, he says, "Hey, I'm going to call my boss in the morning and let them know I don't really want to take that trip to New York."
Hmm.
And I thought, wait, what? He goes, well, there's this trade show. Need me to stand at the booth. I live in Phoenix. The show's in New York. There's actually not a lot of value in me going, and I don't want to be away from my family. And again, prepping for the book and all of that, I thought, oh my gosh, how many times in my career did someone say, "Hey, I need you here," or "Hey, I need you there"? Right, wrong, or indifferent, I would have done it different. Hindsight is 2020, but the birthdays, the anniversaries, all the things that I missed
Yes.
because my go-to is people pleasing, and there's a little fear of missing out that I've gotten past as I've gotten a little bit older, but I wanted to feel like I belonged. I didn't want to be quote unquote that guy. Man, I don't know. We ask Eric to take these trips and he doesn't go on these trips. How do we overcome some of that stuff?
I think it's understanding yourself, which is the hardest thing we can do. That's a lifelong pursuit. For me, what I'm hearing is that how do you fight the urge not to want to fit in?
Yeah.
How do you fight the urge to be what other people want? And it's a knowing that you matter and what's important to you matters. I've seen this firsthand when people don't feel like they belong. The first thing they do is they try to give up parts of themselves that would make them feel that way. And here's the thing, true belonging does not ask us to give up who we are, it asks us to be who we are. So my go tos are, am I trying to fit in? Am I giving up part of myself to do something? Or is this going against my core values? So for me, I have certain values that are ingrained. One of the first ones that people find awfully shocking is I don't care to be right, not even a little bit. I'm the first to admit when I'm wrong. Being right, whatever. Understood, maybe a second close call. I don't necessarily need to be understood either. unless it's the people closest to me. So that's a measuring stick I'd hold people to. Do you need to be understood? Does this impact your life? Does this impact the goals that you have? Right? For me, I very much value the things that I can do for my family. It's important to me. I grew up
Yeah.
without a lot. And when you do that, you sometimes feel less than. And for me, my goal is to always make them feel comfortable and situated. But I'm also a scrappy little fighter. So I'm going to do everything I can in between to uphold that sense of integrity. And those are the things that rub against it for me. And for the people out there listening, you should get a pen and paper out and write what's important to me and what am I not willing to sacrifice. It's a huge game changer. Huge.
This book's different. I don't know that I have like a way to say the why behind it, but tell us, there's books on belonging, there's books adjacent to belonging. How is this book different than other books on similar topics?
Love this question. Here's the real. There are very few books that have belonging in the title that are about belonging. Very few. So that's what makes it really different. I mean, I would challenge you to pick up almost any book out there with belonging, and you're going to find it about inclusion. You're going to find it about DEI. You're going to find it to be someone's personal narrative about their life experiences, which is pretty cool, actually. But it's not going to be about belonging being anything other than an outcome. This book, wholeheartedly belonging. I mean, you can't go a page without the word belonging or the impacts or what triggers what it is or what it's not. And it makes it incredibly different from any book that's out there, minus maybe Braving the Wilderness by Brene Brown, which is primarily about belonging. And most people will ask, of course, the title is a wonderful nod to Dr. Brown's work. It is something that starts where that book takes off. So hopefully I made her proud and the readers will pick it up and be able to say, this is really about belonging and this is what I needed to feel less alone.
So I want to go back just a step. You were talking about writing those things, sort of the non-negotiables of the things
Yes.
that I stand for and all of that. How do I implement some of those? I've been that people pleaser. I didn't feel like I belonged. I've been going to events because I've been asked, and now it's like, hold on, this isn't who I am. I've wanted to belong, so I've tried to fit in.
Yeah.
What's that first step? And maybe it's going to your boss. For you, it didn't work. I think for a lot of people, I've worked for, I suspect, that very same boss. I mean, I've had heart to heart, deep, tear jerking conversations where it's like, hey, can we do this on Tuesday? But how do you have that conversation? Where do you start when you feel the way some of us feel just listening to this show?
There's so many things that are coming to mind, and I'm not that person that tries to jump ahead when you're talking. So there's a few different ways to take it. I always think it's a matter of radical self awareness as a first
Yeah.
step. It's who am I? Who's Beth Kaplan? Who really am I? Because the thing is, I may have a very wonderful aspirational version of myself, and I do. Everyone does. I imagine myself to be the world's best singer when I'm in the car. I imagine myself to be completely pitch perfect in the shower. But the reality is that's not true. Now, is it bad? No, but it's just making sure I know who I am. For a long time, I was identified as a scrappy little fighter, and I want to tell you, Eric, I hated it. I hated it so much. I just wanted to fit in, and things seem so easy for other people. I mean, like, look at social media now. It's all a big freaking highlight reel. So
Yeah.
to me, I kept thinking, I don't understand why I'm not succeeding the way that other people are. And it hit me. I wasn't really looking at myself the way I should. And then I started to think about the shoulds, the coulds, and the woulds. And my very big motto in life is F the woulds, coulds, and shoulds, because they don't do anything but make me feel bad about something I'm not. It's when I stopped and started to talk to myself differently that I will tell you it made the biggest difference. I tell people this. I think they think I'm kidding. I could pull up my calendar. You would laugh, but it's true. I leave notes to myself. Talk nice to yourself. Be don't criticize your hips. Like the weirdest notes I leave to myself, but I'm a reinforcer because what I found is that inner dialogue gets so negative. If
Yeah.
you can start working on the inner dialogue. But when I'm going to tell to everyone, not big animal prints, not these big audacious pictures of what it looks like to be Eric, start slow. Talk nicer to yourself. That's a big expanding thought. I will absolutely put a horrific vision in your head, but I walk by the mirror every morning. I'm
Do
like,
it. Bring it on.
looking good, girl. And oh my God, I'm cringing. I'm cringing the fact that I just told you that. But the thing is, I do it now. And I'm at the point where I'll be like, not bad. And guess what? That's a triumph for me. It really is. So it's talking to yourself kinder. It's putting the thoughts in, and it's legitimately anything that works for you. For me, it's a business calendar. That's so lame, but true. And I tell people this, and I say to go light with it because I'm the type of person where I need to accomplish. I'm productive central. So if I look at this goal and it's like this, I'm never going to get at it. If I can
Yeah.
shrink it and expand, I'm super happy with that. So it's learning about what you can live with and how to break yourself down in a way that has you talking nicer to your inner self. Truly.
Well, and I think it was Teddy Roosevelt that said comparison is the thief of joy. There are so many of
Yes.
us on the front of social media.
Yes.
There are so many of us subconsciously, myself included, it sounds like you, that at times we compare ourselves to that, and you called it a highlight reel, to the highlight reel that is someone else's life.
Yes.
Most people don't post the bad stuff on social. Most people only post the really, really, really juicy, the good stuff. And all of a
Right.
sudden, we start comparing ourselves to that, and all hell breaks loose up here because I don't live that life. I don't have that house. I don't have that car. I can't take those trips. I don't have that job. I didn't get that bonus. Whatever it is, we start comparing ourselves and then we don't feel like we belong.
We don't feel like we belong. And so I think another thing that I do for myself is I have a very central mantra of positive intent, which by the way backfires. It's not like that's not like everyone has positive intent, but I go into it assuming that. And then, especially on social media, I have a rule that everyone wins. So when I make comments, I literally listen to my own voice. And if I'm comparing myself to that person, I don't post it. I don't do anything of the sorts. Interestingly enough, ever since I've taken that approach, if I write things back on people, it goes over like gangbusters. And then, by the way, it's a game for me of not trying not to care. So the other thing is I have a rule that I don't live around people's emotions. It's extremely difficult to do. One better for you, ever since I had that distorted relationship with that boss where I was suicidal, any leader I've had in the future, I do something really hard. I have extreme vulnerability with them. It has not failed me since. It is not for everyone. And anyone listening out there, I don't goal to bring my authentic self to work. I goal to bring my best self to work.
Yeah.
So for me, a recent leader I had that I was working with, I was really honest. She's like, "You are my best. Oh my goodness. Great employee. You always are great with time management. You never bug me unless you have to." And I said, "Hey, listen, here's the problem. I those are not all real things that I do for you. I avoid you." And she was shocked. She said, why would you ever do that?" And I said, "The more time and distance between us, the more unbelonging uncertainty I go through with you. And then I want to give you back time. Or I want to make life easier for you by sending it in an email instead of a meeting with you." And she said, "Beth, oh my goodness, why?" And I said to her, "I don't know if you're intimidating or I am intimidated."
Mm.
Now she doesn't let me out of meetings. Now she doesn't let me get away with any of it. Our relationship is amazing. And that was really hard to do. But guess what? It totally worked. It really did.
That assume positive intent, and what you're referring to, I talk to in my keynotes as relationship capital,
Yes.
building relationship capital with the people around you, putting my phone's over here, putting your phone down, being
Yes.
present to the conversation, whether it be at Target while they're bagging your groceries
Yes.
or in the office. We have an obligation to the people around us to be present because there are things they want to tell us, i.e., they're suicidal, and we're not listening. I suspect I'll assume positive intent about that boss.
Sure.
I will suspect at some point in their day, they had that holy crap moment
I'm
where they
sure.
finally heard what you had said. But so many of us, myself included at times, aren't present in the moment. I can't hear you if I'm not present. Um, I there's a joke that floated around the internet a couple of years ago. Is I hear all my buddies telling me that their wives are upset that that they don't listen, and I don't have that problem. But my wife did start a conversation with me the other day that was like, "Hey, are you listening to me?" And I thought, man, what a funny way to start a conversation.
Yes.
Um, but that assumed positive intent piece is so game changing for me at a
Yes.
restaurant where I used to get upset. Well, I asked for no bun. Why is there a bun? Or, um, well, that guy flipped me off. I don't even, did I cut him off? What happened? Everyone, everyone, everyone has something going on in their life. And they didn't mean to add the bun. They didn't mean probably to cut me off. Everyone's going through something, and I don't have the time to have all of the conversations, but if I assume positive intent, things oftentimes are a lot better for me and probably a lot better for them.
1,000%. I will. When you said that, it reminded me of the fact that I recently joined a hot studio. So it's all warm, infrared,
Yeah.
100-degree workouts. And it was with an instructor that I was at another gym, and I loved her. She was great. So I was pumped and I was ready, not in a hot studio. So, but I knew her workout, I knew her moves, and I walked into that class like way more confident than I should have been. Okay. And it was hard. Like, it was so hard. And I'm like, I can't even blame the heat right now because I don't, at one point I was like, yeah, I'm moving. And then I looked out my legs. They were not moving, not even a little bit. And one woman behind me said to another woman, this just never gets easier. I cannot tell you what that comment did for me. It was huge. And I'm the type of person that when I hear something like that, it's almost like I have to stop in the middle of class and be like, I love you. Thank you so much. But the thing that happened was I saw her in the market that day and I said to her, you completely changed the trajectory of me working out in these classes. And I've been back religiously. And she was like, oh my goodness, I would never have gotten that from you. You move so quickly. By the way, she was being kind. I don't move quickly. But you just don't know what that intent or those messages do for other people.
Yeah.
You don't know what people are going through. She had no idea that I literally, I mean, I felt like I was working out with a bunch of Lululemon models, and then there was me like not moving my legs. So it really did make a huge difference. And I told her she saved the way I actually engaged in the class, and I've been there every day since.
I love it. I want to go back to the book. In the
Yeah.
book, you define belonging as what you call the innate desire to be a part of something larger than
Yes.
us without sacrificing who we are.
Yes.
Can you share what inspired that definition and how is it different maybe from other interpretations of belonging?
Yes. And funny enough, I haven't been asked that in such a long time, and I love that question. Most people that study belonging study at it as at a group level, how you are in the group. And it wasn't working for me. It just wasn't. Because I kept thinking, people have a perception of me that exactly to that girl you were saying, how she's perceived as an extrovert. I'm an extrovert. I'm more of an ambivert extrovert. Like quietest in the room of extroverts, but never quiet past that point. So I kept getting this perception of everyone, every single time I'm not smiling, people think something's wrong with me because I've got a lot of energy. And while I can do well in a group, that's not my problem. It's feeling like I'm not betraying myself to do it. It's fitting in. I think my goal since I was a little girl, I remember being in kindergarten and I remember this song, It's Okay to Be Different. And I was like, no, it's not. And so to me, when I was in grad school and I'm having these conversations and we're talking about human connection, it just wasn't working for me. I was thinking about fear of missing out, joy of missing out, all the things, and kept thinking to myself, but how does this Why am I feeling the way I do? Why am I going online and not seeing one person talk about their manager's impact on them? Other than that study. Do you remember that study that said people don't leave companies, they leave their managers?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Do you know there was no research behind that, but we all got on board with it? We did. So
Really?
yeah, I'm the one who I put the research behind it. I'm sure many people have as well, but that's the thing for me that kept me so floored that I believed it and there was just nothing behind it. I tried so hard to look for it. So, in that vein, I decided I'm going to change it. So, what I did was I started looking at all the definitions of belonging. And when you write a dissertation, you're supposed to really get into it, but without your own voice. And that is like, oh, stifling to me. So, I had to use other people's words. So, I went back to, Brene Brown, and she defined it as the innate desire to be part of something larger than ourselves. And it just didn't sit with me because if I really thought about it, while that is wonderful, that's the common goal. But what is holding us back from it? And it's because we sacrifice ourselves to do it, which again is fitting in, it's not belonging. And so I decided, oh my goodness, this is the missing link. And I've not met one person who hasn't absolutely zeroed on that part of the sentence. Because we all know the first part, but we're so willing to give up ourselves to do it. And that's betrayal, right? So that's really what caught on to the way I've defined it. And it's been catching on like that because I think people realize that they're readily, easily giving up part of themselves and not understanding why they feel so bad.
So I want to talk about belonging in the workplace.
Yes.
Specifically, I want to talk to business leaders right now. For any managers of people, what's the biggest influence on an employee's sense of belonging? What are practical things that we can do as leaders?
So the biggest influence in our sense of belonging in the workplaces are our leaders. And I'm going to go back to you. You've read the book, so it's kind of cheating. But do you know what the number one thing that people want from their leaders? It's care.
Man, I
It's
tell
care.
me.
Care. So the second I see it, it's a really, you just did it. So I noticed it too. People are always like, oh, it's like you settle into yourself when you realize that's it. If that gentleman that I worked for would have cared, would have said, oh my goodness, Beth, this is heartbreaking, but I have a meeting and I really want to explore this to you because I want to learn, I want you to know that I'm not dismissing you. I probably would have stuck around longer. I would have. Would it have been genuine? Doesn't even matter. People ask me that all the time. Does it have to be genuine care? Ugh, I'm going to give it ick factor. It doesn't have to be genuine. It has to be expressed.
This is so interesting to me. I'll tell a quick story and I'd love your feedback. I've got a friend in the technology space who is very successful in his role. And someone pointed out what I think they referred to as a character flaw. And I started to notice it just at the time. I think he had a business coach that was helping him work through it. It wasn't that he didn't care, it was that he didn't know how to express his A1 top priority was work. And I think there were a lot of things that he just missed. People having tough conversations where it's like, hey, Beth, hang on just a second. I'm really sorry you're going through that, but can we first talk about the TPS reports? And
Right.
I think the light bulb has since gone off. I think he always cared. I don't know that he knew how to express it. I
Yep.
think he does a tremendous job. Now, I'll tell a vulnerable story. It's in my book. I've shared it before on the podcast. October 27th of 2020, I got a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning from my father in law. Now, I love my in laws. My wife and I have been married 20 years. If my father in law is listening, I apologize. I think that was the first and only time he's ever called me. I answered the phone on speaker, and my 31-year-old sister in law had just passed away due to a very lengthy battle with alcohol. Got up, prayed with my wife, cried with my wife. Believe it or not, we sent the kids to school because we didn't know what to do. Um, and then I sent my boss a text. Not in a position to talk. I know it's early where you are. Maybe it was an email. Here's what happened. I don't know what I need, but I'm not working today. And the one of the founders of the company sent me a text later that morning and said, "Hey, sorry about what you're going through. Call me when you can." And I thought, is he really gonna go down the work path right now? And I picked up the phone and I called him and I said, "Hey Jeff, what's going on?" And he goes, "Hey, there's nothing I can say to make this better, but take as much time off as you need. And if you'd like, I can have your email taken off your phone and added to mine, and I can just reply on your behalf." And I think between a drive from Minnesota to Phoenix, the funeral, family time, I was off for a couple of weeks, maybe 3 even, and there was not one point in that journey where anybody said, "Hey, when are you coming back?"
Time to come back.
Yeah,
Right. No.
"Hey, Eric, it's been a couple of weeks." And my commitment, and there's Gallup studies galore, but my commitment to Jeff, my commitment to Sean, my direct boss, my commitment to that company skyrocketed. I still refer them business. I still talk about them from time to time
Yeah.
because the way they cared for me, the way they made me feel like I belonged, regardless of what that all meant for me, my family, and candidly for them as a business, they cared really well for me.
Yeah. They met you where you were at. That's central to that statement. I mean, I would have been like you. I would have automatically assumed they were like, "How do we offload your work? When is this going to be done? So sorry to bring this up, but we're going to do it anyway." And it sounds like they met you where you were at and made you feel safe
Yeah.
to just do what you needed to do, which is invaluable, completely invaluable. I've had those moments too. They're the best surprises. They really are because you weren't expecting it probably. And you were just so vulnerable. And instead of making you feel conflicted or uncertainty, they basically said, "That's the last thing we want from you. Go do you. We'll be here when you get back."
It's interesting because until I went through your book and until this conversation, I don't know that I recognized what I'm about to share. But I think because I was willing to share vulnerably, I've had employees, and I've probably been that employee at times where it's like, "Hey, Beth, I'm going to need a couple of weeks. I've had a family thing happen. I need to focus on that." But because I wasn't transparent about what I was going through,
Yes.
it made it more difficult for them. And that's
Yes.
where I think relationship capital and belonging starts, is that willingness to be vulnerable of, "Hey, here's specifically what I'm going through. I'm considering suicide in your case. My sister-in-law passed away," where all of the sudden it's that oh crap moment
Yes.
where, okay, got
Yeah.
it. This is not like, where do the kids go to school next year? We're going to take a time to go on a vacation and tour some schools or anything like that. This is real deal, like super raw, unfiltered life, and we need to care well because I think most people do.
They do, and I think you bring up a really great point. There's consequences and then there's artificial consequences. And a lot of the times we stress the small stuff of those artificial consequences.
Yeah.
Why? Because we lost that fight or flight response that makes us us, that used to be built on survival. Now
Yep.
every email feels like fight or flight. And it just it's hard when you're built like that because you're always on edge. So that human decency that those leaders showed you probably shocked you
Yeah.
because you weren't
But
used to it. I get
it
shocked too. Yeah.
it changed the trajectory of that job for me, and the feeling that I had about the people I was working for. All of a sudden, I felt like I was on a mission with them,
Yes.
despite not being an owner. I was in it. Let's go. I would run
We're in it
through
together.
walls for those guys.
Yeah. You're in it together. And that's also another thing. If the leaders are out there listening, one of those powerful things you can say to your employees when they're in crisis is, "We are in it together." And when you do it, I want you to watch them. It's one of my favorite exercises. I think I said it at the Purpose Summit. And it collectively happened, and it's always fun for me to see. But when you say we're in it together, you will see people's shoulders drop. You will see them become at ease. You will see a different side, and you will have it reflected back to you. I often think, unfortunately, I had a team member go something through recently, a really bad medical problem. And when they were able to express it, and I said, "We're in it. I got you. We're in this together. You do what you need to do, and I will take blah, 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 whatever it was." You should have seen. She burst out crying. She just didn't know how to handle it. Um, that
We
vulnerability
had
she shared, though, led to courage.
Yeah, 2006 maybe there was a downturn in the economy, and we used to have this all company, all hands call every Friday. There were about 3,000 people that worked for the company, and the CEO got on and said, "Hey, we're all in this together. This is a difficult time for all of us. There's some tough decisions that need to be made." He said, "Before I break the news, A, we've figured out a way not to have to lay people off. If we don't do what I'm about to propose, we will have to lay off 300 of you. We're asking everyone in the company to take a 3% pay cut, unless that 3% is important, like life and death important. At which point, here's my cell phone number. Call me and we'll figure it out." He said, and the executive team has all agreed to take a $1 salary for the next year. So
Wow.
when my point there was, when you say we're all in this together,
Yeah, you
you
got it.
have to mean and act like we're all in this together.
That's right. I'm going to give you an analogy that might resonate for people out there as well. Don't, when you pair "we're in this together," don't say things like "we're in the same boat." Don't cliche it, because here's the thing: you're
We're
not in the
not.
same boat. You're in the same storm, but some of you are weathering it through yachts.
Yeah.
Some of you are in canoes. It's not. You're not. You're in it together through that storm and what you're going through. But making your life situations, what I love that your executive team did is you said, "This is what we need, but if you cannot make this work, we're going to figure out how you're getting through that storm."
Well, there
Huge.
was, I think, as the story goes, folklore or not, one person called the CEO and said, "I can't, we're already struggling." And he said, "Got it. We'll figure it out." But because
Wow.
everyone felt like we were in this together, everyone else was just sucked it up. And then on the backside, I remember a company years ago that I was close to. We'll leave them nameless, but they had a pay reduction. It was like a 10%, "Hey, we can't pay you."
Yes.
And business had gotten better and everyone's salary had gone back up, but they all suffered for like 6 months without with that 10% reduction. And their holiday bonus was their normal holiday bonus plus all their back pay, because we were all in this together. Now we're out of it. Business is better than it's ever been. And I don't want to lose sight of the fact that everybody made a sacrifice. So, as we start to wrap up the show, my favorite question, in fact, last week we stumped somebody. So maybe we stump you today. You've done countless interviews about belonging over the years, probably a lot of the same questions over and over again. What's one question you wish people would ask you, but they don't?
What I refuse to give up.
Ooh, how would you answer that?
I would probably answer that as I refuse to give up parts that make me me, as much as by the warts and all. So there are tons of things we don't like about ourselves, but being real and honest with ourselves, there are things that I will not give up, whether I like them or not, because it does make me me. Like I'm a fighter. That bothered me for so long. People would be like, "She's scrappy. She's going to get it done. She's a fighter." I would love to make things easier for myself, please. So for me, it's what are the things you are unwilling to give up and still be yourself?
Wow, I love it. Dr. Beth Kaplan, it was an absolute joy, A, to see you again, B, to have
Yes.
this conversation. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Eric. It's such a pleasure to be with you today.